Alright, here's the second video in the tuning comparison. This will be Danville, and there was some confusion on the last video. Some people thought that I was doing more than one tune. That was all PPEI. And this whole video will be the Danville tunes from Mark Broviak at Danville Performance. And it's been taking me a long time to do these tests because I try to get almost 200 miles on each tune for the mileage. So tune 2 gets almost 200 miles, tune 3 almost 200 miles. So that's what's taking the longest time, and I decided to do it that way to try to keep it consistent between tuners. I'm trying to do them back to back, that way if I fill up and get a couple more ounces of fuel in one tank than the last tank, it'll even out. So that was my plan there. Alright, this is the tune 3, and I figured it's a little bit easier to show you guys what I'm trying to show you on this screen rather than on the dashboard. So on a wide open pull, you will see that the main injection pulse was 1,810 on tune 3. Now on the PPEI it was 2,300 and something. This is only 1810, which is a lot lower, and the main injection timing right here is 20.8 degrees, and then PPEI was 30. Now the difference is Danville is, let's see, the desired fuel rail, the maximum desired fuel rail was 28,283 psi. And PPEI keeps the fuel pressure stock, so that they're only commanding like 26,000 psi, which is stock for LBZ. And I actually hit 29,000 psi, so that's the difference. Okay, on Danville Performance max effort tunes, he commands 28,050 ultra seconds for how long the injectors are open, and he's commanding right here 28 degrees of timing. So that's 3 degrees less than PPEI and only 50 ultra seconds less. He's keeping the 29,000 psi rail pressure, though. That's how much he's commanding, and that's actually how much the truck was running. So the fuel mileage between the PPEI and Danville were exactly the same. And that's the average over 500 or 600 miles. So I'm surprised that they both came within 0.01 mile to the gallon on both of them. Alright, so what I didn't like about the Danville tunes is they actually didn't spool quite as fast as the PPEI tunes did. You can see the video from a standstill on the wide open poles. The PPEI tunes would spin the tires pretty good until 60 miles an hour. And the Danville tunes actually had a hard time spooling tires unless I was using the brake, which is fine. The LBZ doesn't have the strongest bottom end, so taking away some of the torque at the bottom end is completely fine. I'm sure the engine would live longer on the Danville tunes than it would on the PPEI tunes for more than just the torque, and I'll tell you that here in a second. Also, one thing I didn't like about the Danville tunes was the throttle sensitivity was way too much, I felt like, and this is just personal preference. That's all a lot of this stuff in these videos is. But the throttle sensitivity, when you would push it down just a little bit, the truck would just take off. And it wasn't the turbo spooling, it was just the throttle was that sensitive. On the PPEI tunes, it felt more like stock unless you started to really get in the throttle, and then it would throw you back in your seat and go like it's supposed to. So I like that more. It still runs awesome, and I'll have to say I liked them better than the Danville tunes myself. It ran smoother, turbo spooled better. Fuel mileage was identical. Another reason why Danville tunes, the engine will probably live longer, even though I didn't like it how it drove as much. Don't ask why I have a LBZ piston, half of a LBZ piston laying around. But on the 150 horse tune on PPEI, you saw that there was 30 degrees of timing, over 30 degrees of timing on a 150 horse tune. Which is quite a bit for a 150 horse tune. Most guys on their max effort tunes barely reach that. So when the only problem with running too much timing, obviously cylinder pressure, and when you're running 30 degrees of timing, see these marks right here, this little triangle coming outside the bowl? That's this piston isn't even that bad. But when you're running 30 degrees of timing, this dark mark right here, you can barely see that, will come out closer to the edge of the bowl. And what that does, when you're spraying outside this bowl right here, you can, this is the combustion chamber right here for a diesel. So when you're spraying outside that, you're just making a ton of cylinder pressure, a ton of heat, and it's super hard on the pistons. And obviously spraying fuel, if you're past that out to the cylinder wall, that's really bad on it. So that's one thing you might look out for, is their 150 horse tune. It might be a little bit harder on it than some of the others. Next, I already have the Dan's Diesel Performance tunes in my truck. So you guys will have to tune into the next video to see how that goes, and I will try to compare those to the Danville and the PPEI, which I've already done.